we have something that is taking the wider world by storm. There's an app called Lensa AI, and this is a hugely popular app that allows you to upload photos of yourself, about 10 or 20 selfies. Then it uses AI to generate dozens of different avatar photos of you in many different styles. So some are serious and realistic, some are fantastical. And from what I've read recently, this app launched a couple weeks ago max. It's been generating $1 million or more in revenue per day, as basically anyone and everyone that I interact with online has commented on it, used it, even people that had no interest in artificial intelligence, as far as I could tell. And so it's really this interesting example of a massively popular app that's sort of broken containment, so to speak, outside the walls of people that follow AI. Now everyone is asking about these AI avatars. And there's been a ton of controversy around it too, because in some cases, the app has made some problematic changes to people's body types, skin colors. There's been some high profile cases of kind of needlessly, sexualizing images of women in particular. And it also seems that Lensa may be using your personal photos to further train the product. So there's kind of an extensive but murky privacy policy related to it. Not to mention, the app itself relies on Stable Diffusion, which is an immensely popular deep learning model trained on images online. And in some cases, artists have complained that that model has kind of illegally duplicated the look and style of their work because it was trained on images online, and artists had no say if whether or not their art was used to train it. So there's this kind of massively popular AI photo app that actually touches on all these other really important issues kind of related to artificial intelligence. So, Paul, in your opinion, kind of why is Lensa such a big deal?
I mean, like anything, like what happened with Dolly when it became readily available, like we saw with Chat GPT, it's accessible, it's easy to use, it's no code. Like anyone can experience the AI, and it seems like magic when you do it. And so I think that there's going to be an explosion of these tools that are using AI to do creative things that have some value to people, whether it's creating images of themselves that they can share on social as a value, um, giving them a chance to experience the technology, whatever the value is to the end user. I think you're going to see an explosion of these creative applications of artificial intelligence. And I think that's why it's just something that it's easily shared, and so I think you see that application. But like we saw with Chat GPT, like I had people asking me about that at like dad's basketball night. Like I had people coming up to me who've never talked to me about AI. I didn't even knew I did anything with AI, but they follow what we're talking about in some cases. And so people are coming up all the time and asking me these things. I'm getting text messages from people who've never cared an ounce about AI, who now all of a sudden are seeing it for themselves and like, oh my gosh, like that mind blowing moment. And again, it goes back to this. It feels like magic. It's a trick you can show your friends. You post it on, social media, and it's something fun and different. And so I think it's just because it's so accessible and in many cases free or low cost, no code. Um, so yeah, I mean that's my general perception. I haven't used it, but I think it in some ways it's representative of how far we need to go in society to understand AI. And I don't even know that we're ever going to get there. So this is a more like a pie in the sky idea for me. Is like somebody sees this stuff and immediately you just jump in and upload your photos or give them
Mm.
access to Instagram or whatever. Like it's just, oh, awesome. I'm going to output these cool things too. When you and I see something like this, my first reaction is, well, how are they using the training set? Like what are they going to do with my photos? That's my first reaction anytime I give any AI tool anything, any data set. It's the first thing I think about was social media feeds and how they're learning from behaviors. I think about it in anything we do where I know AI is present. How are they using what I'm doing to train the data? And I don't think the vast majority of society would ever think about that question. And so you have a tool like this where just people just race in and give them whatever they're asking for. And then after the fact, like, oh, wait, like maybe it's training on me. And that's Kathy did a
Mm.
great job in her article of sort of summarizing, hey, but Kathy knew going in, she did it knowing that. Like, It's like, okay, let me go test it, but let me also call out like potential privacy concerns. And you make that evaluation like, okay, whatever. It's going to get 20 of my photos. Like it's not the end of the world. You could probably scrape that offline anyway. But again, I think just helping people have a greater understanding of how this stuff works and learns, and how the things you create and what you input into it is used in a training case. Then you get into this other realm you were talking about, okay, if enough people have done this and we know it's outputting, questionable content or
Mm.
things that have bias in them or demean certain, demographic or geographic background, whatever, like that's a massive issue too. And I think the other thing we're going to see with all of these is there's just a race to release things right now, just to ship
Mhm.
products. And again, the big companies like Google can't do it, but these all these other little companies are going to spin out and just start releasing crazy stuff that's going to have all these inherent flaws and biases in it. And I don't want to become numb as a society to it, but it sure feels like that's the direction we're heading, is a bit of a numbness toward privacy concerns and um, you know, invasion of privacy stuff. So
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point too, maybe for some of the listeners that are just starting to discover this technology thanks to things like Lensa is you would think like, well, aren't there a ton of rules and laws around this? Why are they able to do it? It's like, well, no, there's not yet. I mean, there's not anything that is dramatically overreaching in my experience that would prevent anyone from doing what Lensa AI is doing. And to your point, if they can, they will. And we've talked about that idea in the marketplaces. This stuff is moving so fast and people are releasing things so fast that there's not a lot of guardrails outside of personal preference, I suppose, in terms of the founders and the people releasing the technology.
yeah, and I just don't, like you said, I don't see them coming. Like there, I don't know how the government keep up with where this is going and how quickly it's going. Like I put something on LinkedIn earlier this week around, or maybe it was end of last week, around education. Like I feel this way about education at all levels, grade school, high school, college, doesn't matter. There's no way to keep up with what AI is enabling. But
Mm.
from an education perspective, you have to at least start asking the hard questions around what is this tech? How's it going to affect us? How's it going to affect the way people learn and their experiences they have in and out of classrooms? And I feel like government needs to be asking a lot of questions, but I just don't know how they keep up. Like I don't know that there's enough people within government that even understand what's happening um, to really do that much about it. But then we're in a situation where we're relying on the tech companies who obviously have incentive to not have a bunch of guardrails um, to self police, and I don't see that getting getting us there either. So it's a really interesting time. And it's an interesting space. There are a lot of tech leaders who are very aggressively pushing open sourcing of all this stuff and getting the AI in the hands of the users. And their belief is that society will figure it all out on its own. That it's better that you democratize access to this power and let the people figure out where the limits are, rather than allowing a few select tech companies to keep the guardrails in place, or the government. So I don't know how you put it back in the box, I guess is what I'm saying. I think the future is rapid advancement in capabilities, rapid deployment through open source technology, and for better or for worse, the reliance on humanity to figure out where the guardrails are, and how we handle this capability, because it's only going to get more powerful.